Hello and welcome back to my Lightweight Java Games Lover tutorial video series, and in this one we're actually going to have these zombies so that they follow the players around the screen. So, imagine the player can be at any point within the game that they want, and the zombies can also be at any point throughout the game when they first spawn. What do we do here is, since we can only control two different axes of movement, we can control the X and the Y. So we have only two different numbers we can choose. What we do is we mathematically calculate how much X and how much Y we should change to get them to move in a direct straight line from any position on the screen to any other position on the screen. And how we do this is by using a little bit of trigonometry. Imagine, one moment, let me clear this. Alright, imagine the object is right here, but we want them to move right here. How do we calculate that? Well, we get the change in X, then we get the change in Y, and then we can actually get the direct angle in between them with that number, creating a right triangle. And we would use the hypotenuse right here, and that is the actual line that we're using between the two lines. So let's get started. First, go on over into your zombie.java class file, and right under the constructor, let's give it the speed of 0.2 f, just because we want the zombies to move at a slightly slower pace than the player. And over here in the actually at the very top, we also want to add entity player, and this is going to be the player that we're going to follow, that the zombie is going to follow. And so within our update method, we want to see if there is a player that we're currently following, which when we first spawn the zombie, there isn't going to be one. So if player is equal to null, then we're going to actually select a player by doing a for loop, and we're going to say entity, entity, and we're going to get them from main.entities, and we're going to say if entity is instance of a player, meaning if the entity is a player, then player, well, this dot player equals entity, and then break, because we don't need to check anymore. Now we can put an else statement down here. So if there is a player that we're following around, what we want to do is get our current position, which is just going to be equal to x plus 16. 16 meaning we're getting the center of the zombie's position, and then float py equals y plus 16. So we have the exact center of the current object that we're using. And now float movement x, which equals player.x plus 16. So we're moving to the center 16. Actually, if it's 64, then we actually have to put 32. So then put plus 32, movement y equals player.y plus 32. Alrighty. And now we need to get the angle. So here's a little bit of trigonometry we're going to do, but luckily Java's going to do it for us using the math class. The first value we're going to put in is actually going to be our movement y minus our position y. And then our second value is going to be our movement x minus our position x. After this, we can get the scale, the current scale of the movement. So scale x, and we're going to use float values. Math dot cosine, we're going to get the cosine of the angle, and then float scale y equals float math.sine of the angle. And now we can move the object based on the scale x and scale y. So what we're going to do is the current x, we're going to add scale, no, we're going to add scale x times speed times delta. That's what we're going to do. And now y, we're going to add scale y times speed times delta. And when we run our game, the zombies now all want to horde towards the player. They're all moving pretty quickly right now, though. As you can see, they go straight towards the player, which is great. And now when they actually reach the player, they'll kind of twitch out a little bit, but we can add a little bit of code later on to make it so if they're within a certain distance to the player, they'll stop moving. But look at how smooth that is. Great. That's looking pretty good right there. So now we have that in. And now, I guess, that's working perfectly. So now, in the next video tutorial, we're going to add some collision detection, and we'll probably add a little bit of text before that and have text appear on the screen whenever, well, displaying the current health of the player. And I guess I'll see you then.